We've got the intro music. Doom, boom, 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 boom. Somebody playing a trompy in the background, you know. You know what the
Hopefully I'm
is?
on beat. Fucking I'm out here doing my people a disservice.
Good morning, Ináki, man. How are you doing?
I am fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having me.
It's nice to have you on the podcast, man. We met almost over a year ago now, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was so interesting to me. I didn't know that there were so many Argentinian people living in South Africa. Is it Argentinian?
There is a difference. I'm not going to pretend I know what it is.
Makes sense, yeah. Cool.
I don't know if I'd say so many, but there's a decent Latino community as a whole. So I've got Cuban friends and Chilean friends and things like that.
Yeah, I had a Venezuelan lady pray for me in a mall yesterday, 2 days ago.
That checks out.
It's like I'm on a mission here, and she prayed for me, which was nice. But then she tried to sell me books, and I was like, I don't know, I don't have any cash on me. And she was like, no, we take card. I'm like, oh no, I need to be honest.
That's how they get you, bro.
Yeah.
In Argentina, they've got a similar thing to like a PayPal.
Yeah.
So when the guys are begging for money, you say you don't have cash, they whip out their QR code.
Yo, man, we're getting too advanced.
Yeah, no.
I wish I could just reject people the natural way of being like, I'm sorry, I don't have any cash on me. Nowadays, guys walking around with Yokos around their necks, man.
I don't have cash, don't have card, don't have a phone.
Man.
I don't participate in society.
I'm sorry, I don't believe. I mean, it checks out when I'm barefoot in the checkers, you know, which is like a cultural heritage point for me as an Afrikaans man.
Yeah.
You got to be barefoot in the mall at least once a year.
Absolutely.
And like, it's like renewing your license. You know, it's renewing my 4x4 license.
It has to be public so that people can say that they were there.
Yes.
Witnesses.
Yeah. No clipping the toenails. It's not allowed.
Rough.
Yeah. How else are you gonna be able to handle rough terrain? You know.
Yeah.
Gotta have something to claw onto. That's
Blaasvoete.
disgusting. Blaasvoete. Cool. So you guys came here in 2001.
That's correct.
Right? And how old were you at the time?
It was 5 days before my second birthday.
Oh wow. Okay. So you were barely conscious.
Yeah, and I don't remember moving here.
Nice.
A lot of people ask me, so why'd you move to South Africa? And I tell them, my mom asked me, would you like to move to South Africa? And I went, and then the next thing I knew, I was here.
Yeah. Cool. And that here is the Northwest, right?
So when we first moved here, we went to a tiny little town in Mpumalanga called Hazyview.
Okay. Yeah.
So we were there for a couple of years, and then from there we went to Sun City in the Northwest, and then from there we moved here to Joburg.
Nice. So how old were you when you moved from Mpumalanga to the Northwest?
I was 7. It was the 2nd of September 2007.
Wow.
I had a little Disney calendar that came with stickers, and one of the stickers said, remember the date, and I put it in my calendar.
Damn, dude. That's so nice.
It was monumental.
Yeah. So, I mean, being a kind of expat in some ways, right? Yeah, you mentioned you've got permanent residency.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, almost South African, you know?
Yeah.
Almost South African.
Almost South African.
Yeah.
So, and that's been basically since 2004, 5-ish.
Oh, wow.
My mom married a South African gent.
Nice.
And at the time, it was easier to do all of this.
Green card.
There you go, basically.
Yeah.
But I applied for citizenship in 2015. They said, we'll get back to you in 6 weeks. I knew that was a lie. So 3 months later, I called them, asked them, what's the story with the citizenship? And they tell me, what do you mean?
At 4 years old?
No. At 15, 16.
Oh, okay. It's like,
You got a little child who can barely speak the language
Yeah.
using words like citizenship and home affairs.
Yeah.
No, but when I applied a couple of months later, they had lost my paperwork, apparently.
Checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been a journey. 2020, citizenship offices were closed, so I couldn't apply.
Okay.
And now I'm looking at restarting the process.
Nice. Cool. It would be nice to have you as a citizen. I mean, you've lived your whole life, you know.
Yeah.
How often do you go back to Argentina?
So growing up, I went every second year, basically.
Okay.
Then 2018, 2019, I took 2 gap years where I was living that side. Half the year there, half the year here. And then these last 2 years, we were blessed to be able to go 2 years in a row.
Nice.
So I've gone quite frequently.
And there's a big Afrikaans population in Argentina, as far as I know. Not big or...
I've heard about them. It's like a town.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's a big population. There is a community, a centralized community. And they're actually looking for Afrikaans teachers. So there's a plug for any Afrikaans people listening to go to Argentina.
To go and teach Afrikaans.
Go teach Afrikaans in Argentina.
In our most remote version of Oranje.
Yes, very much
The
so.
satellite Oranje.
Except instead of saying "Who's it, bra?" they say "Hola, cómo estás?"
Yeah, bro.
Bra.
Oh, cool, man. I want to start off with some quick fire questions.
Yeah.
Right? First thing that comes to mind when I say Argentinian. First thing that comes to mind. What do you think?
I say Argentinian.
Argentinian. Awesome. Then South Africa.
South African.
South African. Well, okay, let me refine the rules of the game. I mean, you can. That is. Those are answers.
Okay, I know the association game.
Yes, association
Okay, just
game.
because you gave me both words, I thought I had to pick. one.
I understand. And your English, spot on.
I am a
Great.
qualified English teacher.
That
I've
is
got
the truth.
The degree and the TEFL course, but when I fuck up, I still say English isn't my first language.
Yeah.
That's always my fallback excuse.
Is your first language Spanish?
Only technically.
Okay, only technically.
I like
Only
to
at
say it as
home.
I've got Spanish here and English here.
Okay.
So when I get angry at the TV, I'm swearing in Spanish.
Oh, wow.
But when I have to write an academic paper, I'm doing it in English.
Nice. Favorite swear word?
Favorite swear word? The first one that came to mind was "bus."
Let's go, man.
Yeah.
Let's
no.
go. That proves.
But
your
since moving to
South-Africanness.
Joburg, my pronunciation has been off, and all of my friends from back home give me so much shit for it because now I sound like a English white Joburger.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, what the puss, man? And they're like, no, that's not. What do you mean?
No, it's boost.
There you go.
Yeah.
So association game, Argentina. My first word would have been family,
Family.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
and then South Africa was home.
Home. Yeah. Ah, that's beautiful. It's beautiful, man. What's like some heritage point for you since you're Argentine? We were talking about the mate
Yes.
earlier. What
So-
can you explain what that is?
So in Argentina, there's a cultural tea, which Argentinians will swear was invented there. Uruguayans will disagree. That it's you take a. Nowadays, you've got all sorts of materials: stainless steel, silicone, whatever cup. Originally, it was a gourd, like the vegetable,
Okay.
hollowed out and dried. Then you put in loose tea leaves. The tea being yerba mate. Yerba literally just means herb, so it's mate herbs. Chucked in there. Then you throw in some hot water, straw with like a sieve on the end. Pop it in there, and then you'll pour a little bit and sip. Pour a little bit and sip. And it's a community-based drink. So a lot of people, even young people nowadays, which is really cool for me, will invite their friends to the local park or plaza because there it's very grid city. So you've got your little parks.
Okay.
Would go out with their mates just to sit and drink that stuff.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and to me that is incredibly representative, very on the nose for my sort of cultural connection to Argentina. Because I didn't feel Argentinian when I was there in my first gap year. I had a big disconnect with vocabulary and culture and music, and I just felt so other, you know. And I did theatre classes with my cousin, and one of the girls there was insistent. Every time they would drink mate, she'd go, "Ináki, take a sip. Ináki, take a sip." And it was cock bitter. Because
That's what it's about. It's not about the flavor.
no, it's not. Traditionally, you don't drink it with sugar, and if you drink it with sugar, your mate will clown on you.
Wow.
Even though it's a thing, they will still give you shit if they are traditional about it.
Yes. Yeah.
And one day I took a sip and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And my whole worldview shifted just off that one sip. There was such a clear before and after for me.
And how old were you at this point?
18.
18.
Yeah.
Wow. And this was here in South Africa. Or was this in Argentina?
In Argentina.
Okay. Cool stuff, man. So did you live there for a while or?
Yeah. So end of 2017, we moved out of Sun City. Moved out of is generous. We were kicked out of Sun City. And I was very stressed out about my family, my siblings needing to get school, my mom finding rent. All this sort of like really got to me, and I didn't know the financial situation. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but I was incredibly stressed out about it, and I wanted to get out of everyone's hair. So I said, "Mom, I'm taking a gap year," and I fucked off to Argentina
Nice. For a year.
for I think it was 9 months
That's
at
so
that
cool,
stage.
man.
The next year, still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I was enjoying what I was doing in Argentina. So I took a second gap year.
Cool, dude. That's so nice, man. And now you are an LO teacher, if I'm not
That is
wrong,
correct.
right? What is that like teaching LO in South Africa?
I think it's the question, and I've got a little bit of a weird perspective on it because I teach in a private school in Douglasdale.
Okay.
So it's very Lani kids. I mean, all the parents are like business owners kind of thing.
Yes.
So I've got a different perspective now, but I mean, I've taught at a Model C school, I've taught at a township school, so I've got all the perspectives. And I think it's great. Kids know more now than ever. I mean, even when we were in school, wasn't that long ago, we had access to the internet.
Yes, yeah.
So the kids will ask really hard-hitting questions. And thankfully, I've learned how to answer them appropriately, because when a grade 9 asks you, sir, what's a BJ? You have to know how to pivot, because you can't be like, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
But you also can't be like,
Yeah.
it's a good time, you know?
Yeah.
So the content is definitely outdated in a lot of areas. I'm sure you and a lot of people listening here will remember having done a poster on drugs, and one of the categories was the street names.
Man.
So you've got like marijuana, and then you've got dacha,
Yeah.
weed,
Zol.
and it's like, you look at all these names and your parents are so proud of you, like,
Dwak.
yeah, dacha, that's correct.
Yeah.
You give it in, your mates look at it and they go, all your stoner friends goes, nobody says dacha
Nobody
except
says.
for old people. Like, that was such a waste of time. Whereas now when I do drug education with the kids, I talk about things like, what constitutes a drug? What is one's relationship with drugs? Why is it so normal for teenagers to be doing drugs? How do we sort of consolidate the normality of kids doing things that they shouldn't do with the real world that we live in?
Yes, yeah.
And you have deeper conversations. So I love it. Every day is a podcast for me, really.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's like I think the correct way to go about it and educating about it is harm reduction. You know, because if a kid is curious about drugs, he's gonna do drugs.
Yeah.
You know, nobody can stop them. Not teachers, not parents, nobody. You know, so the most important conversation is like, listen, it's out there and it's fun, but also you're gonna have friends that go too deep and you know,
100%.
like, might never come back from that. So
100%. My guiding philosophy on it is always connection before correction.
yeah,
Connecting so much with the students as with the content. So it's exactly that. It's telling a kid, yeah, I know some of you smoke on the weekends, whatever, and they kind of like laugh into their hands.
Yeah.
And being like, and there's nothing wrong with that, actually. But then talking about long-term consequences of chronic marijuana smoking. So if you want to smoke once every second weekend, then live your life.
Yeah.
If you're smoking before coming to school, what do you do?
it affects your education.
Yeah.
Like, and it also like sets a bad habit for yourself.
100%.
Yeah, that's very good. That's good. That's what we need.
Yeah.
we need, and you are a very philosophically minded person. You like to think in terms of frameworks and concepts.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that, especially for what you do, because I remember I was in a public school and Allo was an off class.
It's a joke.
I
Let's
didn't
be
do
real.
anything in the LO classroom.
I think the average school is like the grade 8 allo teacher is the geo teacher teaching during her free lessons, and the grade 9 allo teacher is the business teacher.
Yeah.
And they all have such wide philosophies. The amount of teachers that still teach, what's it? I can't remember the word for it. Not having sex as the celibacy, as the only way forward. It's like, what year are we living in?
It's also like English is difficult. English is not my first language. Let me use that cop out. It's also religiously based, right?
Yeah. No, there's
It's
a lot
based
of
on
that.
faith. So I mean, I went to a very Christian school, and in that school, it's like, don't even ask about sex. Sex is bad and wrong.
Sex is a 1 week topic that we look at and never revisit.
Yes, yeah, and it's awkward all the way. I remember we had a biology teacher that wouldn't talk about evolution. You know,
That's rough.
yeah, which is like that's science.
That is science.
Yeah, it's also it's weird that it's still contentious to be a kind of topic. So Rustenburg, was it safe to say you spent the majority of your life staying in Rustenburg, or
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. And you are 25 now.
Yeah.
Hey, we're the same age.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Old ballas.
Yeah. Hey, dude, it's weird. I can't remember when I felt older. I remember I was like looking at teenagers in the mall. I was like, the kids these days, you know?
So mine was the other day, actually. My like, before I enjoyed the memes, oh, my back, oh, my knees, all that stuff. But the other day, having a conversation with a friend, I said, yeah, no, I'm going to UP because they're doing a thing called Step It Up. Like, it's like a dance and song sort of competition between the reses. Because my brother was part of it. And I was voice noting my friend, and I said, yeah, no, I'm here to just watch the kids do their performance. And as I put my phone down, I could just feel the tears in my eyes. What do you mean the kids? They are in university.
Yeah. Hey, dude, they are kids.
Looking at the girls on stage doing dance moves and going, yeah, she's a bit young for me. What?
Ish. I felt that too, man. I know what you're talking about.
So yeah.
Yeah. So like, you've experienced. Is it safe to say like Rustenburg, Joburg, and Argentina in your conscious years of life?
Very much so.
So in Mpumalanga, you were kind of still.
Yeah, I've got some fond memories, but it's very much like the smallest, youngest years.
Yeah, climbing trees.
Yeah.
Chasing dogs.
Exactly. Touching electric fences.
Oh, dude, man, I've got a. I remember at my grandmother's place when I was young. I must have been 6 years old, and I was a tall kid. These kids that were older than me convinced me to jump and like touch the electric fence, dude, and it shocked the shit out of me. I never changed. I mean, I was never the same after that day. I changed permanently because it just jolted something in me, man.
Yeah. No, it's a very formative experience.
It is a formative. It's a very South African formative experience. You know, there's electric fences everywhere.
Absolutely.
You know, and you got to test the waters. You got to know what's safe and not.
Okay, but in my case, I tested it 3 times. So
Hey.
I can tell you from a scientific perspective, having, tested it multiple times, because that's how that science works, right?
Yeah.
It fucking hurts.
Is it reproducible? You know,
Yeah.
You reproduce the shock.
Yeah.
The shock factor.
Yeah.
It does hurt. So how do the cities differ? I mean, I'm sure Rustenburg and Joburg are closer to each other than Buenos Aires is, right?
So I think in order of how much life there is, I think that's what I want to use as my perspective here. Rustenburg's definitely at the bottom. Even though it's got a fairly big population for the Northwest, I think it's the most populated city in the Northwest. It's just so quiet. There's so little to do. I mean, a couple of years ago, they got a second mall. So that was sort of big news. There's really not much. And then specifically, I mean, I grew up in Sun City, so I can talk about that as well. But
When you say in Sun City, you're talking about inside of the resort or in the area around?
The resort has like a mountain just next to it. So you would catch a little shuttle just over the road that's there. And then you would be at what's called Sun Village, which is like a small complex and a little shopping center and stuff like that, just outside of Sun City.
Okay.
So, but when I say just outside, I mean literally a 5-minute shuttle ride. So that's where I was.
Okay.
And then being a resident there, I had a little access card and I could go in and out as I pleased. So I spent a lot of time inside of Sun City.
Wow. In that wave pool.
Yeah.
The lazy river.
I mean, I did some junior lifeguard training there.
Oh,
and that would
wow.
be before it opened for the day. So we'd be there for the rest of the day.
Yes.
And we'd be causing shit before the lifeguards arrived. I mean, putting olive oil on our bare asses and zooming down the slides. So yeah, Sun City was awesome. I think I had a very unique 21st century childhood. I had what a lot of our parents want us to have, going out with my mates until 2-3 in the morning because they knew I was safe. Being naughty and making fires with my mates and taking our parents' scooters and going for a night drive and things like that. I had a very, like small towns in movies, in coming of age movies.
Yes.
Like we had a lot of that.
Oh, it's so nice.
That was lovely stuff.
I had a lot of you're not allowed to go outside of the boundaries of the property.
Yeah, you see, so I was very lucky in that sense. And I had my mom was very chill. She'd ask me like, what group of friends are you going out with? What is more or less the plan? And when do you plan on being home? And if it was super late, I'll tell her like maybe 2 a.m, but I might stay at my friend's house. And she's like, cool, just pop me a message when you're back in the complex.
Dude,
I had it easy.
that's so nice, man.
Then Joburg in comparison, everything is so far away. Until I got a car, moving around was a mission.
Yeah.
I also had a girlfriend living in Rustenburg at the time, so it was a lot of our parents needing to drive us up and down, which was a bit embarrassing at the age of 20 and a bit. Then to get anywhere, it's Ubers. Now that I've got a car, I can take that at least, but it's still 10-15 minutes to get anywhere.
Minimum.
Yeah, and one thing that I don't like about South African social culture is that everything requires money. It's going for a jewel, it's going for a dope. It's nobody. If you say let's go for a picnic, everyone's gonna be like, "What the heck are you on about?" Like that's not a thing.
And I mean, a picnic itself also requires money.
Yeah,
It requires you to pay for snacks and access to places.
So like now that I've settled and figured myself out, I do like pub quizzes, for example. That's my go-to, and I've done my socializing, and I've re-energized as an extrovert, and I can spend my weekend doing nothing and not feeling bad about it.
Nice, yeah.
Then Argentina, on the other hand, it's grid city.
Yeah.
Not the tallest buildings, but I mean, it's still 8-10 floors for a residential building, which is way more than what we used to here.
Yeah.
Everything is walking distance. You've got a pharmacy on that corner and a pharmacy on that corner.
Wow.
You've got, what's really nice is you've got specific businesses, I guess is a way to word it. So instead of going to a supermarket for everything, the supermarket's like if you really just need to buy stuff for a family event now, but otherwise you're going to the green grocer on the one corner, you're going to the butcher on the other, you're going to the baker on the other. Like there's still a lot of that, which is nice. Also, Buenos Aires does not sleep. I was a bartender there for a short while, and my shift started at midnight.
Wow.
And that was still quiet. That was still restocking fridges.
Dude.
I would go home at 8 in.
Sure. And people would still be partying?
People would still be partying. They would then go to the after party.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more lively. I mean, my great grandmother's 74 and she cycles. She still works for the government, and she has to do like street lamps and stuff like that. And she has to do quality assurance. So she'll cycle at her big age because it's a city filled with life.
That's so cool, man. Beautiful. So any Afrikaans people, especially if you're a little bit racist, they're looking for Afrikaans teachers in Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
Or the surrounding areas.
Yeah.
Please leave.
You're not going to get refugee status if you go to Argentina.
Yo, hey, bro, I don't know about that, man. I don't know. Looking at how they treated refugees in general,
Rough.
you know.
To be fair though, on the previous point, Argentina's got the best beef in the world.
Oh, wow.
Qualified, certified, #1. So the braai's there.
Who oversaw that decision? I think there should be a rematch. We've got some good beef here.
I mean, the most beef we have here is in political conferences. Comparatively
Have you driven through KZN?
valid.
A lot of cows. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll have to invite you to an Argentinian thing. We don't do braais, we do asados.
Asados.
Yeah. So a point of reference that somebody made is South Africans cut the cows vertically and Argentinians do it horizontally. That's like a very, very quick summary.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of cuts there that don't exist here because the butchers are just trained differently.
Yes. Yeah.
And you've got vacío, which is like the meat that's on the back of the cow, and it's cut into one long strip, and you cook the whole thing just flat on the grill.
Wow. We've got like Texan steaks.
Texan.
We call them Texan steaks. There is a fascination with America across South Africa. We love
absolutely.
America. I mean, I grew up watching American TV, So it's also interesting because I think that you're more South African than anything else apart from your heritage.
Yes.
Right? I mean, in terms of life experience.
Absolutely.
You're quite South African.
Without question.
So do you get the question often was like a lot of questions about Argentina, but like you're only linked by heritage, whereas the majority of your experience and lifestyle comes from South Africa. Or how would you answer that? Yeah.
So growing up, I got a lot of, this is my Argentinian friend.
Yeah.
And then I'd go to Argentina and they would say, this is my South African cousin, which you develop a bit of a complex when you're in the country and everybody claims you for the other one.
Yes.
I always felt like I was in an away stadium, And then nowadays I have a lot of people that will ask me like, would you ever go back? Or, I go to Argentina for holidays and say, oh, you get to go home for a bit. And it's like the vocabulary is entirely shifted and they don't understand that. And I don't blame them for it. But I'm Argentinian by passport and citizenship. I'm Argentinian by blood and I'm Argentinian by home culture and heritage. But everything else is here. I mean, I grew up here. I wore toughies to school that I bought at Pep, I used to walk barefoot in the mall as well because my stepdad's Afrikaans. I shot with a kitty when I was trying to have fun. I learned how to drive in Douglasdale. My life experience has just been so thoroughly South African that the question just throws me off.
Yeah.
But something that's been very cool is since that mate experience, taking the sip and feeling Argentinian, it gave me so much peace because I came back and I realized I don't have to be one or the other, I can be both.
Yes, yeah.
Which this is going to be such a silly little pivot here, but it's why I enjoyed certain animes like Tokyo Ghoul or Parasite, where it's this whole like, what world do I belong to?
Yes, yeah.
And I'm like, you can belong to both. It doesn't make you other to have something else. It makes you more.
It makes you, exactly. It does. It makes you more interesting as a person. Not just more interesting, but more in total. You don't have one source.
Yeah.
You've got two worlds you can inhabit.
100%. And in my car, I have a little crocheted mate that a good friend of mine in Argentina made. And my Crocheted, yeah.
Is it like a figurine almost, like a stuffed
Yeah,
mate? Okay,
little
okay.
stuffed thing that I didn't know what it was at first. It kind of looked like a turtle, and I realized I was looking it upside down. But and then my best mate Josh, he bought me they're called scullies. It's like little 3D prints of skulls, essentially, and it's a skull of a springbok. And he said, just to remind you that you've got a little bit of Boki in you. And it kind of brought me back because I've been riding the whole I'm Latino train for so long, sort of in response to this duality, that when he said that, it kind of clicked. It's like, holy shit, I'm from here, like as well. More so actually. So it's nice. I've got them both hanging in my car, and it's a nice little reminder that I belong to both worlds.
Instead of the dice in a car, you've got one mate, one springbok skull.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. That's so cool. And in terms of like the bigger life events, you know, like weddings and stuff, have you gone back to Argentina for any weddings or funerals or anything like that?
Funerals, not yet.
Okay.
Which I'm lucky. Whether unlucky or lucky is up for debate. But weddings, yes. My one aunt, which I call her my tiita, so ita being diminutive, my taniki, because she's only 10 years older than me. I attended her wedding, and that was awesome. That was partying until funny hours of the morning. Again, just part of the culture, right?
Yes.
And that was awesome. But other big events, not really. I think we would usually go back for the holidays, and our big events would be Christmas and New Year's and things like that.
Okay. So how does like a wedding differ from South Africa versus
I haven't
Argentina?
attended that many weddings here either, if I'm going to be real. I think one thing is not differ, rather that they have in common. In Argentina, you have to be certified by Home Affairs as well. There's no priest that's allowed to do it because there's a separation of church and state.
Okay.
So they have an entire hall dedicated to it. So there's a little wedding venue at the Home Affairs.
Okay.
So you go there, you chuck rice at them. It's part of what we do.
Rice.
Don't ask me why.
Culture.
I just knew that I pulled my arm back, and yes, I used my cricket arm for it. Spin bowling a handful of rice at my aunt. Then from there we went to the venue, and the reception, I think, would be the difference. There, the reception, like here, it's also like a party or whatever, but there it's a jol. And you're partying, I'm talking easily 12 hours.
Wow.
Easily. You go there, you party a little bit, you sit, you eat, they do the speeches, all very similar to here. And then you're just partying.
Yo, no, that makes the introvert in me afraid.
I'm talking, and it's drinking the entire time, hey? Argentinians,
now you got me back.
Argentinians aren't big drinkers compared to South Africans, but when they are drinking,
it's drinking.
It's drinking.
Yeah, it is siping.
No, I'm talking very, very many hours of just booze, which was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's like the drink of choice?
Ooh, stumbled upon a very nice question there. So in Argentina, we've got an alcohol called Fernet.
Fernet.
Yeah,
that's a name here.
So it's very similar to Jaeger. It's a digestive. It's very herbal. As I mentioned earlier, with the mate, cuck bitter. Bitter is a kind of a cornerstone in flavoring in Argentina.
Okay.
Like chimichurri, for example, that you might be familiar with.
Yes.
And that's also bitter. So bitterness is very much part of it. So the Fernet's very bitter. If you speak to any of the older people, they'll talk about how they would sit after a meal and, sit and sip tots of it. I could not sip it. I look at my frail 97-year-old great-grandmother talking about how she would take a shot glass of that and just sip on it. And I ask myself, like, how did you do it?
Yeah.
Because I've tried, and my God, is it terrible. Just coats your mouth.
The same thing with the mate, right? Is like taste. You develop 100%. A taste for it.
But now you drink it with Coke.
Oh, okay.
And in Argentina, I was a bartender for a short period of time. I started the same night that I started, if that makes sense. I received no training. There was no pull in early.
Okay.
So I asked him, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And he shows me the menu. He says, if it's 2 ingredients, it's 30%, 70%.
Oh, wow.
If it's 3 ingredients, it's 20%, 70%, and 10%.
Okay.
Like he gave me just some ratios, and that's what we worked with. So I'm talking a 45% liqueur that's being poured a third of the glass, and the rest of it is Coke. And it's become such a party drink that some places will just offer buckets where they just chuck in a whole bottle essentially, and they just fill it up with Coke after the
bottle service.
Yeah, except there's no bottles in the bucket. It's just the bucket.
You just take a glass and you
quite literally
you get yourself a glass.
Yeah, you also see like lighties, 17, 18, 19 on the public buses, having chopped the top off of like a box of juice.
Okay.
And they would have poured some in glasses at the house with some vodka, whatever.
Dashing.
And once they've taken out enough, then they just top it up with vodka and they're all drinking out of the communal juice box.
That's very, very Argentinian.
Yes, very much so.
It's like alcoholic mate.
It's fantastic. Yeah, the community is a huge part of the culture.
That's so cool, man. I don't think the communities are... It depends. I think it's more family oriented in South Africa.
Yeah.
Like family and friends.
Yeah.
That's also one thing is like it's rare to meet people. In South Africa, when you go out with people and you go out and you're with those people.
Yeah.
For the majority of the time. I meet a lot of people, but it's just because I love talking. So I just...
I think Argentina and South Africa are very similar in that aspect. The difference is, the memes of like how extroverts will adopt introverted friends. I think it's very similar. I think we are in South Africa the quote unquote introverts, as in we have our friends and we stick to that, but most of us are very open to making new friends. Like if somebody comes to chat to us and we're drinking and they ask, is there space? We're usually more than happy to say, yeah, join us.
Yes,
and you come our mates. But we're not so much the ones that join people.
Yeah.
We're happy to receive people. Whereas Argentinians will see your soccer shirt and that's a conversation.
Okay.
I remember...
Unless it's the wrong one.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
So I remember going for a pee at a club after losing my cousin. A dude saw my shirt, a conversation struck up, and that was my mate for the night.
Yes. Oh, that's so cool. I think you touched on something there, which is like a cornerstone of South African culture in general, is friendliness. We are friendly people.
Absolutely,
And even if like talk about that table where you just ask, hey, do you have space? They'll say yes, even if they don't want you there. Not you specifically, but the person because it's a friendliness thing. It's like, I don't want to be rude.
Yeah. It's almost worse to say no.
Yeah, it's worse to say no. Yeah, and often you'll find that you really can vibe with anybody. Yeah, that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Next question. Funerals. Have you been to many funerals? Have you been to any funerals? Not one.
I've never attended a funeral in my life.
Wow. Lucky.
I don't know, man. I think it's going to hit me like a fucking freight train when somebody that I know passes away. I mean, I've had a few good family friends and stuff like that, and my personal response to it is a bit cold, which, I always feel guilty about.
Very masculine.
Not even maybe, but it's more so just, I think I understand. I've very much internalized the whole like life and death cycle thing. So when somebody passes away, it's like, oh, I'm not going to see them again. Okay.
That's the sad part, but
yeah,
that's the part that you
that's the part that's
oh,
but like, we all, life is for the living, so
funerals too.
Huh?
Funerals are not for the dead necessarily.
Yeah.
It depends actually.
I've never attended any funerals. Some older family members have died, people that I wasn't too close with. Family friends that I was decently close with have also passed away, but I haven't had the chance to attend a funeral. I think it's a very European style. Everybody's dressed in black. They do the casket, they do a eulogy. Like, I don't think there's anything too traditional that I can say. Same with the weddings. It's a very mainstream white European way of doing things.
Okay. Right.
There's not too much that sort of...
You got the dresses, you got the flowers, you got the dinner afterwards.
Yeah,
and then some partying.
Yeah. But we're one thing that I can say that is a bit different is we're a very emotional culture. I worked with kids there for a while, and the kids that were crying the most were the boys. The whole concept of being a morphe or whatever, like that's not a thing there. Excuse my Afrikaans.
In Argentina.
But yeah,
okay.
Like there's none of that. So I I know for a fact, like everyone's crying kind of thing. Everybody who needs to cry will.
Yes.
And there's no shame in it. There's no like the men have to be there for the woman. Like if you need to cry, you cry.
Yeah.
If you need to feel it, you feel it. If you're at a wedding and you can feel the tears, you let it happen. That is one key difference between Argentina and like maybe South African white cultures. There's no structured masculinity necessarily that you have to.
Yeah, but not if you're Afrikaans, hey. I haven't cried in 3 years.
You have to do the Trevor Noah method of just crying in bulk. You just need to watch one really sad movie.
Dude, I'm waiting for it. It's gonna come and it's gonna be devastating.
Yeah, and then you just ride that wave until it's out of your system.
But it's a lot of like the thing is I've also internalized that with something you mentioned of like being strong, not necessarily for the woman, but just being strong for the people around me. That's been my thing. I'm the eldest brother. To me, that's like I don't know. It's just my default state. You know, I'll mourn later in support of people mourning now.
So
yeah.
I think there's a key difference. Like, I'm also firstborn. I'm the, be there for my brother, be there for my sister, and not burden them with my cock. But I will still feel what I need to feel and let them support me in their small way. So I'll never ask my sister to like listen to all of my life stories and problems, because she'll jump off the balcony if she has to know what I went through.
Yeah.
But to tell her like I'm having a bad day, and her giving me a hug, like that's more normal for me.
And that's enough.
Yeah, that's more than enough.
Yeah. And that's the plight of an older brother. You know, that's the cross we carry, you know.
And it's okay. I think we all have our roles. I don't think there's anything innately wrong with it.
No, I don't think so either. No. But I do need to cry at some point. We'll see. Maybe I'll figure it out. Any sad movie recommendations?
Firefly, the Grave of the Fireflies.
Never heard of it.
Studio Ghibli.
Oh no!
And
man.
it's about an older sibling taking care of a younger sibling during World War I Japan.
Not Robert Kiyosaki.
Start crying.
Is
now.
it Robert Kiyosaki?
No, it's Hayao Miyazaki.
Kojima?
No, Kojima's from the games.
Oh, okay.
Miyazaki. No. I'm
My Japanese is not great, but the Ghibli movies are so good. My favorite is my WhatsApp background is Totoro.
Nice.
It's been Totoro since I was 16.
Very nice.
Yeah. Over devices, WhatsApp is just like, I got you, man. I know you like Totoro.
Totoro is good.
Totoro is awesome, man. I want a Totoro body puller. I mean, if you're gonna get a body puller.
Yeah. If you've got the budget for it though, because it has to be life size and it's like 3 meters.
Yeah. I'll get a small Totoro.
Fair enough. No, mine would be Howl's Moving Castle. I learned the theme on the piano and everything. Like, I'm so into that movie. I've seen it so many times.
Man, I haven't seen it in years.
It's time for a rewatch.
Yeah, 100%. Agreed. Then birthday parties. Coming of age birthday parties in like sweet 16, 18th, 21st. What like in your life, what were the important ones?
So I'm going to answer just from an Argentinian perspective first and then mine.
Okay.
So in Argentina, they do the quinceañera.
Yeah.
And it is such a money driven thing. Like I think my mom went to Disneyland or something.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it's not that my family was particularly well off when my mom was that age.
Yeah.
They had just, found the money for it.
What age is the quinceañera?
15.
15.
And it literally just means 15 era. Like it's just 15 with the suffix.
Okay.
And that's the whole becoming a woman thing, which I think is so problematic because there is a big before and after shift. And then like you go out and there's 16-year-olds that are very sexualized and you have to be like super on guard, but it's also kind of part of the culture that they're women now. So is a very gray area there, which is not like a, but anyway, just come back to the party. It's being treated like a princess. It's like a matric farewell, the big puffy dress and the nice car and the renting a venue and it's a big budget event. The boys, we don't have anything. And then in my own life, I don't think I've ever had any particular birthday party, coming of ages, whatever that mattered. It's just been the birthday itself. And my family tries to make a very big deal out of my birthday for 2 reasons. One, my birthday is the 26th of December.
Oh, wow.
So my mom wants to make a very big distinction between like Christmas, your birthday.
Yes. That's nice of her.
It is. Yeah, it really is. She made a very big effort for me to not be traumatized. I think there was like 2 years in a row or something where it was a little bit blurred or something. And she said she felt so bad that she never wants to go back to it again.
Nice.
But also being the firstborn in my generation. I've got 2 cousins older than me, but they were born in Spain.
Spain?
Yes.
Okay.
Being the firstborn of my generation in Argentina, my family all has quite a deep connection with me because I was the one that they would, raise or connect with or whatever. And then we moved overseas, and every time I'd come back, I put a huge effort to connect with them because family was such a big thing for me. So all of my family will try to make it there. This includes family friends that I call auntie and uncle kind of thing. So I always had big birthdays growing up, but it was always big family birthdays.
Yes.
With friends, it's difficult because like my one mate's in KZN visiting his Oma and the other guy's there and the other guy's hungover. Like being able to do a birthday has
On
been...
the 26th.
On the 26th has been a thing. But culturally, again, coming back to my previous statement, it's just a very white, stereotypical, there's drinks involved, there's a braai involved. That's a big thing. There's very often a braai involved.
Yeah.
There's going out involved.
Yes.
But to say that there's anything special other than the quinceañera, not really.
Okay.
But yeah, a braai and family. My family is incredibly family oriented, and that's within a very family oriented society.
Okay.
I'm talking 15 plus people at any family gathering,
Okay.
any and all. You have a saxophone performance at the end of year. You're going to have cousins there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's very cool, man. And then 2 more questions before we get out of here. The first one is, were you raised in any religious denomination?
I was raised Christian.
Cool.
The denomination specifically is called Church of Christ, which is a very scientific, might be the wrong word, but a very scientific take on the Bible. So if you have a question to ask, they will pull out a Bible, like very old, as close to the original kind of thing as they can.
Okay.
And they will pull out this like mother of a Bible, massive book, which has, it's like an index. So you open it to the word tattoo and it'll tell you every single verse that mentions tattoos.
Wow.
And then the pastors that are there have to go through a rigorous process to become a pastor, an elder, and a deacon.
Wow.
Like in the Bible, it says to be an elder, you must X, Y, and Z. And if you don't X, Y, and Z, you don't get in.
Okay.
And then they all need to have studied something that's relevant. So everybody there studied theology. And the pastor that I had, for the last couple of years that I had attended church was, he had learned Greek and he had learned how to read Orthodox Greek or something like that.
Yeah.
So they would say, Jesus thought on this is what he said. This would come interpreted in these 3 ways. However, given the historical context and the cultural context and the specific political leader at that time and the conversation he was having, and the guy who was talking, they dissected the entire thing.
That's good.
To pull it back together and say, therefore, this is the answer we've come to.
Wow.
Which to me is awesome because I'm not religious anymore. But it's still fascinating to see how answers are achieved in such a system, because it's not just pastor said so. If you have a hard-hitting question, you can ask it in the sermon if you really needed to. But usually, you'll politely ask him on the side and he says, cool, let's do a Bible study. Pull through. Do you have time on Tuesday? Pull through for coffee.
Yeah.
And community is a big part of Church of Christ as well. So everybody knows everybody. And if you knew, they make a very big deal out of you being there. It's not just raise your hand. Okay, go grab a pamphlet afterwards. It's so normal nowadays. They'll say, okay, Johnny, you must make sure to go speak to him afterwards. Hey, and they're on your case. If they see you the week afterwards and you didn't connect with anyone, they'll vase you. They'll be like, dude, what's going on? Be part of the community.
Yes.
So it's a very beautiful take on Christianity. And I'm grateful to have been raised in it. But yeah, I've sort of drifted away from it.
It does seem to inspire the way that you think as well.
Yes.
More scientifically oriented, more question oriented, and seeing, okay, where do we draw the facts together of whatever the environment is of the question.
100%.
So,
when I was very little, I asked the whole, why was the apple in the Garden of Eden question?
Yeah.
And where so many people would be shushed by their parents, don't bother the pastor.
Yeah.
I was taught, that's an awesome question. And some years later, the same pastor told me, did you know if you were Jewish, you would have been put into a school to become a rabbi?
Wow.
Because one of the requirements is asking difficult questions at a young age. To become a rabbi, you have to have that kind of curiosity. So it was awesome being raised in an environment that encouraged it. Even if now I've moved away from it because of the hard-hitting questions, I appreciate having had that part of me nurtured.
The kind of church that I grew up in was not very question-oriented. It was very much listen-oriented. Yeah. And then the last one, it could be South African or Argentine and Argentinian. Argentinian is a saying that you love, a saying that you repeat often, or just the first saying that comes to mind.
That's a lovely question. I can't think of any national cultural ones really. But in my family, we've got it's kind of petty now that I think about it, but it's lo hubiese soplado usted, which means you could have blown on it yourself. So my great grandfather, God, I can speak for an hour, and just great grandfather actually, so full on ancestor. He was he's a bit of an idol of mine. I've got a pocket watch of his at home, and he was a watchmaker.
Okay.
And he had this one client who would come in once every couple of weeks or months or whatever with this pocket watch, and he would give it to him, and my great grandfather would open it, and he would just go, he would just blow on it. There was some dust. There was a problem with it that it would accumulate dust and close and give it back to the guy and charge him. And the dude faced him, like, how are you going to charge me just to blow on it? And his response was, could have blown it yourself. And in my family, we use that when somebody asks a favor of you and then they complain. It's like, well, you could have blown on it yourself. What's your story? So that would be the biggest one. And then here, I was like Buddha mark a plan, because I grew up with an Afrikaans stepdad, so I have a lot of Afrikaans culture as well. So I used to love using that, and now I'd say Buddha mark a plan, but a Latino just figures it out.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. I think that's a great place to end it. Ináki, man, thank you so much for joining me today. Do you want people to find you? If you'd like to, you can plug yourself. If not, we can end it here and say Merry Christmas.
Leave me alone, guys. Leave me alone. If you see me in the streets, don't greet me.
Awesome. Cool. Ináki, man, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it, man. That's a wrap.
Oh,
like and subscribe. If there are any questions that I didn't ask that you would have wanted to ask, please leave them in the comments. Did we end? Is this one on? Hey, you! If you subscribe, look down. The subscribe button is lighting up if you're on the webpage. Even if you're on Spotify, press follow. If you're on what other platforms are there? iPhone, go fuck yourself.
You gotta stand up and fight.